Right. Oh. Zoom, hi.
Hey, welcome back to the planning commission.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm surprised that I can say that honestly, but I honestly am excited to be here. Probably because I'm pretty sure there won't be a lot of legislative matters that will just be administrative.
Well, we'll see. Right?
Yeah, we'll see. I'm hoping. Yeah, well, it won't be coming from you guys though, let's, right, it won't be.
Probably not.
No, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Hey, you're looking awfully dapper.
I don't know about dapper, but.
Oh, you are though, your white
Here.
shirt and jeans and
Uh,
you threw on a coat to try to pretend.
Well, I had a few meetings out in the field, so I was
Yeah,
like,
you
thinking
had
of
what
that,
else, Phil?
a few meetings.
Oh,
Um,
okay. For some reason, I heard I had a few like cows get loose. I don't know why I went there.
No cows. I've only had horses.
Oh, do you really? I didn't
Yeah.
ever know that.
Yeah, well, I don't now. but
Yeah.
We used to have quite a few paint horses. I
Oh.
was
Paints
that.
are, okay, so I used to trim horses' hoofs and did it in a natural style, so
Uh-huh.
we didn't have to put shoes on them, you know, I'd sell people boots, right?
Uh-huh.
Like tennis shoes, and I'm telling you, paints were my orneriest animal
yeah.
ever.
Yep.
They're like all female and all that time of the month, and I'm like, what is it about these
Yeah.
animals? And I have foxtrotters,
Oh, yeah.
they're for old people,
Right,
right? Yeah.
because they had a nice lope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that nice gait,
Yep,
super gait, yeah.
Yeah,
But I had two that were, had the paint coloring,
uh-huh,
but it's just a mixture, right?
yeah.
But yeah, so you don't anymore.
No, my buddy bought a few of them from
Yeah,
me
yeah.
and.
Few of
so
them?
I still have,
How many
Contact.
were they?
oh, there was only about 6.
Oh, is that
So,
all?
Yeah,
Okay,
so it wasn't
right.
very many.
Yeah,
So it was just more for the family to ride in the mountains.
yeah,
So,
yeah. That's
Yeah.
nice. That is
Hey.
nice.
One of our happiest days,
When you get rid of them?
when they were going out to the auction.
Yes.
No, no.
Oh,
Jack, no.
So Jeff, how was the cruise?
Where did you go?
So
We went to Alaska.
Oh,
with the whole family.
really? You took everybody?
Yeah.
That way you could,
Just the adult children and their spouses.
okay, so were you doing a planning meeting on how you were gonna go and start your own ward? Because you didn't, no, okay.
No, we were discussing the first 50 years of our marriage
Oh,
and what do you kids expect of the next 50 years?
yeah, that's it. Well, Dad, we want to trust, that's what you want. All right, son, that's already taken care of, now what?
Chair Wampler,
Yes.
it might be good to introduce everyone to Laura. Laura, is one of our new planning commissioners. She
Yes.
replaced Dave Morby. So,
Yes, I was gonna ask you, would you like me to make that announcement at the meeting with roll call?
you could do that, but if you wanted to maybe cut so everyone can get to know everyone.
We're here, I
here.
understand that, I'm just asking, because I was wondering about in the agenda, it's
Yeah.
not a separate item, but
Yeah, I would just bring that up at roll call. Yeah.
fantastic.
And then, we have 2, people's terms coming up in June.
Mhm.
And I think one was Schweppe and the other one was, well, he was
Well,
only
yeah.
appointed for a year from last year.
Okay, so he was an intern?
Uh-huh,
He was entering. a-
yeah, and then it was Schweppe and oh,
We have Schumann, we have
Schwab-
Burton, and Barber, and
Schweppe.
Thrower, and Wampler, and and Woodburn.
no, there was, oh,
Here, I'll look it up.
he hasn't been here for a little bit. Why am I drawing a blank?
Trevor Schumann.
Trevor,
Yes, okay.
did you say Trevor?
I
I'm
said
sorry.
Schumann.
Oh, Schumann, yeah. So, yeah,
Okay,
those
so
2
Schumann
are
and
up.
Schweppe.
So hopefully they'll just want to get reappointed. And then we'll still put it out for advertisement and see where the commission wants to go with that,
Okay.
so.
Is
yeah.
it still true that this body will cease to exist in December?
That's my understanding.
Well, the people in this body will.
We don't wanna see through this.
You know,
Right,
yeah,
but
you,
we will no longer be, valid
The Weaver
commissioners.
yeah,
Now, is
Yeah.
Old Snow Basin Road in the new city?
so Old Snow Basin Road, the base of Trappers, there's a portion of base of Trappers that is in the county, and then it goes up to Snow Basin, and that's in the county. But Old Snow Basin, I think, is part of the new city.
Okay.
And I never saw the ending of, North Ogden Divide. Are you gonna take any accountability for that, or did they dump that on
I
the county?
think that's on the county. I think so.
And they had no.
I'm thinking about it, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it all ended up, do you remember Cortland on that? The North Ogden Divide, did that end up
What district are you in?
the boundaries? I think that was in the county.
I don't think, well, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, from what I remember on the map, I think most of that was all in the county.
Yeah, I don't know where the boundary is there, but I was gonna ask, there hasn't been any kind of ordinance passed addressing the question of dissolving this planning commission. So I think the commissioners, the county commissioners, I think just have to make a decision one way or another. I know that obviously the part that's within the new city would be removed from the planning commission if it stays in place, but I think the county commissioners have the freedom to decide whether to combine everything into one planning commission for the whole county, or whether to continue to have a separate Ogden Valley Planning Commission that would encompass just whatever's left. So they need to make that decision.
Yeah.
And that is not, it's Powder Mountain and Snow Basin, and that's pretty much it, isn't it?
That's the
Hey,
main,
hey, how are you?
that's the main areas. There's some areas up in Evergreen
Yeah, okay.
that are still in the county. But, and Cortland's right, the county does need to make that decision if they're going to get rid of the commission. And they'll probably be doing that, I would think sometime in November, after the elections.
So
But.
I know for a while they were taking the Board of Adjustments position and thinking maybe they would just have one person to hear that the Board of Adjustments wasn't gonna exist anymore. That was considered.
They've
for a while.
talked about just a
Yeah.
hearing officer,
Yeah.
similar to what Ogden
Ombudsman.
City's done,
Yeah.
and I think Roy City's doing that.
Oh,
But I'm not sure where they're gonna land on that.
and so the other, yeah, it would make sense to combine them. As
Yeah.
far as the, just Western River. I know that they probably wouldn't think so, because it's so different.
Yeah, my gut feel is they'll most likely combine, just because it's hard to find an appointed
Yeah.
enough people in unincorporated Powder Mountain and Snow Basin who are actually legal voters.
Right.
I know one full-time resident.
And-
Only one.
And I think we would like to at least get, if we combine them, I think we'd want to have someone from up there
Some sort of
on,
representation.
I
yeah,
think they would love that.
yeah.
That's important.
I think that they would really love that.
And I know the commission, I think, would like to have,
Yeah.
just like with Uinta Highlands, we like to have someone from Uinta Highlands on the Western Weaver Planning Commission, even though they're way out there. And we usually have been pretty good about getting someone from Uinta Highlands on there, so we like to have people from, all areas on there, so hey. So that's kind of,
I'm gonna start this, because we
Oh, yeah,
often run
sorry.
over, and then if nobody has any questions, then we can go right back into
Perfect.
all these other
sorry,
points. That's all right, but everybody's here, so I'm gonna go ahead and start this by welcoming our newest commissioner to our group. She has been on the commission before, so she's not new to the commission, but she's new for our gathering, and that is Miss Laura Warburton.
Warburton.
Commissioner Warburton, we
Yes.
have, if you are not familiar with everybody, we have Commissioner Burton to your side, Commissioner Thrower next to him, Commissioner Wambler, myself, Commissioner Barber, Commissioner Schuman, and Commissioner Schlippy.
The SCH is at the end.
There we go. And that makes a full house, which is a great night to start because we haven't had everybody here in a little while. So welcome, everybody. Greg Morby, yes,
Dave,
Morby, Dave Morby, sorry, Dave Morby. I don't call him. So Dave Morby.
Did your term end?
He
Yeah.
resigned for some health issues, I believe. So we have one item on the agenda tonight. And I just wanted to actually kick off with a procedural question, Director Grover, and that is, in the past, we've had 3 different sections of an agenda where a consent item will be up top, and then there's administrative, and then there's legislative. And my understanding was when we separate the consent items out completely, it's kind of just an up and down vote, whereas if we want to have any discussion, we need to bring it under administrative.
Yeah, you just pull it and put it under administrative.
Okay.
And that, as staff looked at it, we didn't see any issues with it.
Mhm.
So we just put it on consent. And we would typically try to just push it to the next meeting so that you guys don't have to come down for just one item. But we felt fair to the applicant and the applicant wanted it on, so we're like, yeah, let's put it on. So,
So there has been some chatter up in the valley about people gathering to want to come to tonight's meeting to discuss this. So my thought is to bring it out of just consent into administrative so that we can just let people speak their piece.
for sure.
And then I'll do my normal explanation where I tell them we can't take your comments into consideration, but we're happy to hear from you and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So do I need to make a formal request to move it, or do we just simply
You
kind of
would.
make a comment?
You need to make that in the meeting, so it's on the record that you'd like to move it from consent to the
But
administrative.
it's not a formal vote, it's just me stating that I would like to
Yeah,
move
if
it.
one person wants to remove it, I think we should remove it.
I'd be happy to make that motion for you.
Okay, so then we'll put it, just moving it from consent to administrative.
Yeah.
All right, anybody have any questions regarding this item?
And Tammy's here.
Tammy, is there anything special about it that we need to be aware of?
No, I know that we have had numerous discussions on the color of the brick and the texture.
Texture, that was my only
This
question.
is not a street facing structure, so none of that applies to this.
Oh, interesting.
They drilled a well, they're just looking to install a pump house for it. At some point in the future, they will amend their CUP to install another pump house because they are currently drilling a second well on site. But this is your standard public utility substation. Native landscaping, they are accessing, Rocky Mountain Power owns land to the south. They're accessing this site through a 24-foot easement, along that property. So that's how they're coming in.
Out of curiosity.
Where's Ingress? I'm sorry.
No, I was just out of curiosity, you got a big long drive down that road when it looks like there's a nice little shorter one off to the side of another property. Did they just not get?
I'm not sure what you-
Don't put it in the area. Where the access is.
Let me hop into Zoom here real quick.
There's a large.
Page
power-
7 of 11.
I'll pull it up on the
Oh, right.
screen.
There's a large power line corridor going right along that on page 7. If you look at the bottom of that, along that access road, that's a power line corridor that goes
Easement
all
right
along
there.
there.
Will there be eventual roads or buildings in that area? Nothing we have planned.
Those are those big utility lines going right through there, so.
I was thinking like north-south through,
Oh,
like on that.
Oh,
maybe we don't have any applications in for them right now.
good.
What are the ramifications if it were a roadside pump house? Are there any changes that would need to be considered?
If,
in down the road, it becomes a roadside location?
um,
You need to go to the non-smooth faced
Right, we have to go textured.
texture.
Isn't that a standard though?
No. 'cause
She was
that's
just
what she
saying.
said. When you read it, so this is the part that that's the only question I really had about this, because it seems to be approved, but. We're saying that because it's not on the road, we don't need to put textured CMU.
Yeah,
And I don't know, I think that's hard to say, because it could develop into a road. You also have a house facing, so
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. I wanted more detail on that. If we were going to.
yeah.
if you wanted to make that call, I'm sure you could. It's just when staff looked at it, we didn't really see. I mean, there always could be a future possibility of the road, so if you felt like, good, that's.
I don't know. I mean, what's the burden too,
Well-
right, of adding it to, from
Right,
non-smooth to
having-
Yeah.
CMU? like
Is there a cost
everything else?
differential?
I mean, I'm sure it is, but I don't know that it's.
Or do they get grandfathered in because there wasn't a road when they built it?
It could be. I mean, that is a potential commercial site down the road, you know, at the corner of Liberty Park area. I don't know how far density expands if, you know, down the future. I mean, we're guessing, you know, future development, if at all, but.
That's why I asked you, where is this road? I'm looking at page 4.
Page 7,
Had to pull
page
up.
7.
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
yeah, but
You could go to 7.
Yeah.
but he's looking at page 4,
You can't,
which is
can't read.
with the houses.
Let me check with Marta. I'm showing that I'm sharing my screen, but
Yeah, that,
Where's it at?
Oh, because they're on the road, but on
that's
page 4.
directly on the north end of the power line easement. Sorry, that is a microcosm of what you're looking at.
He lived right there.
So power lines running right through here.
Give some context, you were like a neighbor.
Yeah, sorry, Commissioner Farrar. That's my backyard and I understand there needs a little more context to that.
So it's zoned AV3, meaning it would be kind of just homes through in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's no downside to having it textured in the event that it would be roadside eventually or within a neighborhood.
Even still, it's a request by us or a condition, because the ordinance itself, actually, I thought everything, because everything we've ever done. has
The ordinance
been
never said
textured,
anything.
but- Well, it says specifically, as Pam mentioned, anything with exposed front street side of building, then has to be textured,
But you can
otherwise.
see this from the street. As you drive around that corner, you can look back there and see right where it would be.
And what's the downside to
So
having
it would
textured?
be considered street side, even if it's just one side.
Yeah, you guys, if you're feel passionate about it, you want to.
I don't love adding the burden, but I don't know, I guess would they both be open to it? Cause it can't be that much of a burden, to just make it texture.
Each-
I would add recommendation at least.
It's been one of those things where everybody's like, we don't like telling people like the design feature, but at the same time, it's what the ordinance has said. We've had this discussion every pump house, is that, okay, well, it needs to be textured and not, you know, and it's always been something that the commissioners have
Let's make it textured
felt uncomfortable.
as an ordinance.
Yeah.
There must be a cost differential.
There must be, but, and you can ask the applicant if they're here. We just, as staff looked at it, we were just like, that is so far off the road.
Yeah.
I guess you could see it.
It is
We
not
just didn't
anyway.
want to add an additional cost. And so from staff looking at it, we're like, you know, why make the developer do an added cost when it's not even gonna be seen or really visible?
But do we have a cost breakdown of the smooth brick versus textured brick?
Well,
That would
as a
be,
planning commission, you don't look at the
Yeah.
cost. You can't look at,
okay,
you can't base your decision on cost.
all right.
Go back to the general plan, it says we're rural. If it's rural, how come we're making it look like city?
Like what? I missed the last part.
Why are you making it look like a city?
So you're saying the
Cause
smooth
cities
versus,
have all this fancy architectural textured stuff, and it's,
Oh.
they're supposed to be rural.
well, when I
And
looked
also,
up the
also
difference,
textured is more rural.
yeah, when I looked up the
Smooth
difference.
face, 'cause you see a lot of smooth face in downtown, you know,
Yeah.
industrial applications, you see smooth face, so
Anyway.
you could make that argument either way.
Like,
That's my-
That's actually the way I understood the ordinance,
But I'm
is that
looking at-
textured is rural.
At page 7, when I see some kind of structures there, I don't know where this pump house is on page 7.
The brown thing.
sorry,
I
guys,
don't
I'm
think
trying
those
to share my
organizations will
screen here.
care.
I'm having issues.
I think if you,
Sorry.
I think
Okay,
that they will be fine if you ask them to do that, and they're just gonna be happy to be approved and on this.
I think they know some construction guys.
Yeah.
Probably manage.
I don't think they're gonna,
So
and
we're,
if you feel strongly about it, I would do it.
Okay.
I like the idea of at least recommending it because I think eventually it may become roadside.
Good.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's
It
the
doesn't,
issue if it is roadside down the road? They need to reface it or it's grandfathered
Maybe
in?
grandfathered in.
and it doesn't have to hold up the project, you just do a base.
Yeah,
plan.
Yeah, I don't think it's any issue besides
No.
external look.
And
for
if there are people
future.
in the audience tonight that don't clearly understand what a CUP is, and it's just all about water, they're gonna be expecting some of us to say absolutely no. You know, just basically, they just don't understand, then maybe just a little bit of a give of the look that might appease them.
Yeah,
That's
that's
fair
good.
enough.
I think that's a
especially
fair
if it's
assessment.
concern.
The access to this pump station is gonna be over the Rocky Mountain Power easement.
They're using the easement, yeah.
They're using the easement. Who owns the property upon which the easement?
Rocky Mountain
Mountain
Power owns it.
They own the land,
Yes,
so it's not an easement, they own the land.
they've granted an easement to Nordic Village Water.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And you said they drilled the well, but there's no structure there, right?
There's no structure
So they're not
yet.
using the well, the well is just drilled and they need.
They just drilled, right, they need the structure and the pump house to be able to use the well.
The blocks themselves are cheaper textured.
So it's actually less expensive.
358 versus 342 each block.
Maybe we adopt that as an ordinance.
Yeah, I mean,
Honestly, that doesn't really matter. You
Yeah.
can't really take that into consideration.
well, absolutely, we can take it into consideration, because we can say. The ask that we're asking is not too unreasonable, not that we're gonna say, hey, like, you
Right.
have to do this, we can just ask. So the consideration is, oh, it's less money, it's not that big of an ask.
Yeah, money can't come into the planning commission's determination.
You can feel better about it.
It sounds better,
Yeah,
but
you
it's
can feel
less,
better
but
about it.
we can't.
So
How do you just
what
ordinance?
supposed
what you're
to, I should
telling
say.
me is, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
money absolutely comes into consideration. It doesn't mean we say. We are demanding that you do it because you have to pay for it or say that. It's one of the considerations of everything that we do and how you do it, because money is part of the whole reason why they do it. So yes, it's not something I can say, because of the cost savings, we need you to do this, but it's something that you can use as consideration. Well, it's cheaper to do this, maybe they'll do it.
But what if that price changes? By the time my understanding of conditional use, it's I'm moving it to administrative to allow the public to speak, but. It's an up or down vote. Does it meet the ordinance? And that's all there is to it. I mean, ordinance, very clearly, it surprised me because we've always. Had the whole thing at the texture, but apparently it's just if it's street facing. Nobody has had a problem every time we've talked to them about texture, so I imagine we can talk about them tonight, ask them tonight, and they'll probably go along with it. If they don't. It is what the ordinance is. Like we said, the smooth is more modern. The textured is more rural, but
Okay, so
they go with the ordinance.
that's the only thing we can consider, which does it specifically say that we can't consider money in the ordinance? None whatsoever.
Right.
I would love to read that.
Well, it's basically the requirement of the planning commission. They can't base things upon monetary. They can't make their decision based upon monetary values.
I've wanted to do
Yeah,
that
that's
many,
what it
many
says.
times
Because, like, if
in
you-
politeness, but you can't.
If you, maybe that would actually save taxpayers money if we did consider that. I mean,
Yeah. And, it's as much as you'd like to do that, I mean, personally, you can make that, but I wouldn't recommend that from
Yeah, where do you draw the line?
ours, from the county side of it, and when you do become a city, you still have those requirements, because that's part of every planning commission throughout the Utah, is they can't base their decisions based upon monetary.
Is that a state code?
So, but, it's, if you choose to, I doubt we're gonna get run into, if it's nothing to me.
It's possible that there's confusion. This just came in my
Shani, I
head.
have a quick question in a second. Go ahead.
But no, I was gonna say, it's possible there's confusion based on, a number of our decisions have to be proportional, like impacts and things like that can't be too outrageous. It has to be proportional to, it's possible there's some confusion there.
Correct, and there is some things that way with rough proportionality to the impact of the development. Because oftentimes we may say, the road needs to be extended this far off-site, and you can base that, but based upon rough proportionality of the impact that the development has on the community.
Right.
And so there's certain things you can do that way that can address certain things with rough proportionality, but,
Right.
and then that becomes, sorry, that sandwich just isn't settling with it, but, if you just have to kind of balance it out, what that rough proportionality is.
And if I,
I have a question for Tammy, sorry, go ahead.
No, Shelby, let's have your question. I'm
All right.
sorry. It's just that we're running out of time.
Applicant is drilling a second well in the same area?
Yes.
Where is it in relation to this existing well, and can we mandate they just do one building that's larger that accommodates both pump houses? Instead of building two?
They
not
are
mandated, recommended.
far enough apart, it would be an enormous building,
Okay.
and it's on their site plan.
Just if we could do it two
little
for
bit
it, would be,
grayed out.
that'd be nice, but if
It
not,
would be a huge building back there.
okay,
Um,
we don't need to make anything bigger than it needs to be.
So if we go back to basics, okay. They're entitled to this
Thanks, Ken.
CUP. If everything can be mitigated, health, safety and welfare. And we're talking about texture of bricks on a single block building in the middle of the trees. Okay, I think,
We have to go back to the
It's
ordinance.
in the ordinance, and
But
they
we
want a
can't-
smooth face.
but there's a point with you, a line, arbitrary and capricious. Now, I like texture, well, I like smooth. And there's nothing to do with health, safety and welfare. It's just, okay, now are we becoming arbitrary? And capricious
But
and
it's,
stepping over that line of what we ought to be talking.
If it's in the ordinance, then.
Yeah.
If it's in the ordinance, we can,
it's,
but then,
Then it is.
how far do we drill down?
we don't, we just say it's in the ordinance and we follow the ordinance. That, otherwise, we are debating what color somebody can paint their house. If this is in the ordinance and therefore it needs to be followed, and we are gonna need
And the
one
ordinance
ordinance.
says about brick. What?
It says,
I've got the ordinance pulled up right here, guys.
Page
This is
three.
under-
page 2 of the packet.
This is under standards, architectural landscape standards, and this section that discusses CMUs, and there's no other section that does, is specific to exposed fronts and street sides of buildings.
And ours is textured concrete.
So the part that we're filling in is
So-
how you define exposed fronts and street signs.
Okay, Cortland, was it quick or should we put it in the meeting? Cause we're
it
gonna-
was quick.
Yes.
As to the question of whether or not it's in the state code or the county code that we cannot consider that,
Okay, but
it's-
money or what do you consider what?
financial
Okay.
stuff, financial considerations. I don't see it specifically mentioned, but the issue is you're only allowed to consider things that are in the code. And the code does not mention financial considerations or money considerations as something that we can consider as part of the conditional use restriction. So we're limited to whatever is in there.
So
Thank you.
our discussion is based on textured concrete or concrete masonry, block CMUs.
It's CMUs, it's in there. We're gonna move over and we can have that discussion. It is at 5:11.
Wrapped Cybertruck. Oh. Yeah, I like the color is.
Ah,
It's very it's one of the more
Are there
attractive-
people online? Martin?
Thank you.
There's like 5 people on there.
Don't mind it.
Oh.
Sign tool. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. As long as I don't touch this, Marta, I just want to make sure, as long as I'm ignoring that, I'm just kind of not dealing with that dialogue. It should be okay. Can I X out? Okay. I just didn't want to take any. Okay, all right, cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, they, he has the check for this thing that I don't pay.
And then get it beforehand, it says, most of the same. Wow.
All right, well, we're gonna call the meeting to order, so thank you, everybody, online as well as in our audience, for coming to the May 20th Ogden Valley Planning Commission. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. All right. As for roll call, we have a full house tonight with all commissioners present. So that is Commissioner Schumann, Vice Chair Commissioner Barber, Commissioner Frower, Commissioner Schweppe, Commissioner Burton, our newest commissioner, Commissioner Warburton, welcome. And myself, Commissioner, Chairman, Commissioner Wongler. All right, so we have one item on the agenda, and first I'd like to call for any conflicts of interest or ex parte communications. If anybody has any, please speak now. All right, I'm going to actually announce, there was I don't consider it ex parte communication, and I ran it by our attorney as well. But it is worth mentioning that last night there was a community meeting up in the Upper Valley. That was an unrelated meeting to anything on the agenda tonight, but at that meeting, a resident got up and spoke publicly, encouraging people to attend tonight as a water meeting, to discuss various issues about water, which I then spoke up. I did recognize myself as the chair of this committee, or this commission, and I informed everyone that was present that it is not in fact a water meeting, that it's a planning commission meeting. And that the item on the agenda that we'll be discussing is a pump station, a conditional use permit for a pump station. So that everybody was aware that what would actually be happening in tonight's meeting, contrary to what had been previously spoken of. I did also encourage everyone, even though it wasn't what they thought they were going to be discussing, to please still come, and that there would be a time for them to have public comment and get things on the record if they wished. So that conversation did happen last night at a public meeting up in the valley.
Chair, would you entertain a motion?
I will.
Okay. I would like to move 1.1 CUP 2025-06 from the consent item agenda to our regular administrative items and to allow for conversation. Comment.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Frower seconds that. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so moved. Thank you. So we have one item on tonight's agenda, and it's a CUP 2025-06, request for approval of a well pump house to serve the Nordic Village water system. And planning staff Tammy is going to lead us in with this.
We almost, actually. Mike's.
No mics.
Am I good? Were you turning the time over to me, Commissioner Walker?
I was.
Okay, sorry, the mics went out, so I wanted to make sure. This is an application for a conditional use permit. Conditional uses are a permitted use in each zone, depending on the proposed use, and they are permitted typically with conditions. This is located, this parcel that you see on the map is located in that AB3 zone. A public utility substation is a conditional use in this zone. With conditional use applications, we're looking at a few different things. First, we want to make sure that what they're proposing is permitted in the zone. Second thing we're looking at is we're looking at the site plan, we're looking at setbacks, we're looking at landscaping, architectural standards, and looking for anything that may be considered detrimental or a nuisance to any adjacent property. What is being proposed is a pump station for a well to service the Nordic Village water system. Can't tell you if that's the official name, that was what was included on the application. Wanted to kind of point out a few things here. I didn't prepare a formal presentation because this was initially on the consent agenda, but questions have been asked about how this site is going to be accessed. Let me pull up the site plan first of all. This is the proposed site plan. This is 3500 East. Kind of toggle back and forth.
Can you go back? Oh,
Yeah, right here. This is this parcel here. So Rocky Mountain Power owns a corridor of parcels running east and west, and they have granted the applicant a 24-foot wide access easement from 3500 East here. So they don't have to try and access from all the way up at the north to the south of Liberty Park. So this is the access here. I'm gonna go back to the site plan. This is just kind of a zoomed in picture of what they're proposing. Here's the access easement here coming in off of 3500 East. There is a 24-foot wide access road. They're calling it a public road. There isn't any road dedication occurring at this time, so the county's not planning on taking this on through this application, but maybe at a future date, I'm not sure. What is being proposed is this pump house here. What's being shown here is a future pump house when they begin drilling the well or perfecting the well to the north. And I know the question was asked, I'm not sure if I can see distances between these two, let me see. Question was asked if one structure could possibly be constructed to house both wells. I can't answer that. That may be a question for engineering. That would be a pretty sizable structure right there to house both of these locations, but at this time, the applicant is simply requesting a CUP for this portion here. To go through setbacks, let me zoom back out here. There are setbacks for a public utility substation in the AB3 zone. The front setback is 30 feet. This would be on page 2 of your staff report. The side setback is 10 feet, and the rear setback is 10 feet. This is what we would consider the front lot line. I'm gonna go back to GeoGizmo here. Where we have something similar to a flag lot configuration, I guess we could call, we wouldn't call this the front lot line. We could, I guess, call this the front lot line. We're looking at this as the front lot line, and it more than meets that 30-foot front setback. And of course, the 10-foot side setback and a 10-foot rear setback for a public utility substation. Other questions that come up are landscaping. The applicant is looking to maintain the native landscaping that's surrounding the use. Just to, as much as you can blend in a public utility substation site, that's what the applicant is attempting to do. They want to make sure that it looks nice. Another question that's come up are architectural standards and the hot topic of CMUs and what they need to look like. I do have a portion of our land use ordinance pulled up here. This is to reference, it's 108.2.4b specifically. This is under standards in our land use code. We reference this when we're looking at design reviews, when we're looking at conditional uses. This is a conditional use permit with a design review component in there. So we're looking at landscaping, we're looking at architectural standards. The reason why we didn't require the applicant to submit plans that show textured and colored CMUs is because when staff looked at this, we didn't necessarily consider these exposed sides of the building, given the distance from 3500 East here. Planning Commission, as was stated in the pre-meeting, may certainly make additional requirements. And I'm sure that the planning director and Cortland will let you know what's in bounds and what isn't. But what the applicant has proposed meets ordinance according to staff analysis. And so we would recommend approval of this CUP.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll open it now for the planning commission for any questions they might have. Planning staff?
I have a question. If you notice in this same overhead picture to the right is 3750 North Street. And it looks like that continues a cross section of an existing neighborhood. And then if you would just pan out and to the east slightly, you see a continuation over here on Sophie Way. And it appears that that would run fairly horizontally into potentially future neighborhoods if these two parcels, the one in question, the one adjacent, I guess there's two adjacent to the east, were developed as neighborhoods. I just wonder where that pump house sits in relation to that 3750. And I know it's hypothetical, but would that still meet the setback if that was a horizontal line coming across? And I don't know if that's a fair question to ask, but just thinking down the road.
I think it's a fair question, and when planning looks at these applications, we do look down the road, we're looking at connectivity. We're looking at whether we can still continue connecting neighborhoods with some of these sites in place. In this particular instance, we did look at connectivity for Ogden Valley and didn't foresee anything connecting through in this location of 3500 East. As you can see, this is all built out right here. The likelihood of UP&L granting an easement for a road, I don't know, or even granting land for a road, I couldn't tell you. There is certainly an intent to connect these further to the west, that is clear. Likely they will probably head north from there, but what the configuration will be in the future, because we don't see something connecting in this area out to 3500 East, I couldn't tell you, we don't have any applications in for that, so I'm not sure.
Thank you for the clarification.
Mhm.
Any other questions for planning staff? I'll entertain a motion to open for public comment. See if anybody wants to speak on this matter.
I would move to open it for public comment.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Frower and a second from Commissioner Schweppe. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. Would anyone like to speak regarding this item on the agenda? Not seeing anybody raising their hand. All right, going once. All right.
Motion to close public comment, please.
We have a motion to close from Commissioner Frower and a second from Commissioner Burton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, any further discussion on CUP 2025-06? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Is the applicant in the meeting?
The question was if the applicant is in the meeting, and we had a hand raised, yes. Would anyone like to ask questions of the applicant? Would the applicant like to speak?
You want to, I can.
Does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
Do you have any opposition to making it textured CMU instead of smooth?
Hey, Brian Christopherson, sorry I'm late, there's that traffic coming up here.
No. No, we were looking at it. I'd prefer split rack or split face. And then we probably have one smooth section for any lighting or anything. It's just easier to attach any lighting or exterior lights on it. And it just looks a little bit better and cleaner. But, I'm okay with the split face.
The only reason for the ask is the ordinance traditionally would be that pump houses need to be split faced or textured CMU. And so the ask is if you'd be willing to do that, because there's some discussion as to whether it would apply or not, but if you're willing to, we would appreciate it, I guess.
Yes, we're looking into it. So before that discussion, that's something that's pretty typical, see it's great. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion on the matter? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve CP 2025-6 based on staff's recommendations.
Second.
Like to make a friendly amendment, if I may.
Sure.
We added that the applicant has agreed to certain standards that you just mentioned. You need to put that in the motion. I'd like to add that to your motion.
Sure.
Motion.
That's fine.
All right, so we have Commissioner Barber made a motion to approve according to the findings and the standards of the staff report with an condition that the applicant has agreed to consider textured CMU, is that correct?
Well, you used the word consider.
Sorry, let's rephrase.
Put it in and then they would do it.
So let me rephrase, or would you like to rephrase?
So, yeah, so we can amend it to include using the textured block too.
All right, and there was a second from, was it Commissioner Schumann? I believe, yes. All right, all in favor of the motion, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is public comment for items that are not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak? I have no one in the audience in the room. I don't see any hands online. If no one is interested in making public comment, we will move on to remarks from planning commissioners. I have some questions I just want clarification on from Director Grover. Have we had any movement on some of the past items that we looked to? Elwood Partners, is that coming back on the agenda?
No, I haven't seen anything there.
CW Basin.
I think there might be some things coming on that. John Lewis has a few items coming up in the June meeting. But we're not positive if that's gonna fully yet be noticed, so we're trying to work out a few things.
There was a question posed to me from a resident in the valley about there, I guess there's chatter about Ogden City looking to usually move TDRs. Is anything like that coming forward?
They have expressed some interest, but they still have to get things submitted, so I'll know yet.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
I think I should probably make a comment, that's okay, sure. I want everybody here to know that despite what you may have seen in the past, what you may assume, and I'm not assuming that you've assumed anything, but just to be clear, I have never been to dinner with John Lewis and his wife. I have never taken money from them for personal use. And I do not plan on having any ex parte communications with them about anything. I hold myself very accountable to this body and to the rule of order. And so I just want you to be clear about that. And if you have any concerns, please
please come talk to me. So I'd be happy to do that. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is planning director report.
Don't have anything.
Cortland Erickson, remarks from legal counsel.
One brief being just procedurally, I don't have any concern with what you did with opening the public comment, but since this was not advertised as a public hearing, I think it's worth pointing out that you were not required to take public comment tonight. And in a situation like that on an administrative item, I don't think it requires a formal motion, and the rules of order say if it's not a public hearing, then allowing public comment is at the discretion of the chair. So you have full discretion to allow it or not, based on your determination as the chair. And if you want to get the feedback of the rest of the planning commission, either just informally or through a motion, that's perfectly fine. So what you did tonight was perfectly fine, but in the future, if you choose to, on an administrative item like that, you can either just kind of informally say, should we take public comment, or you can just decide as the chair.
Perfect. Thank you very much for clarifying that. And I'm remiss because I usually give a little speech before I ask for public comment in administrative items. So I'm going to go ahead and take that opportunity just to express for any public that's in the meeting or online right now. Administrative items are not something that we typically take public comment on, and it is often not advised that we take public comment on, for the simple fact that it is not something we can take the comments from the public into account for our vote. And so in order to keep things clean and not confuse anyone who's speaking, it's often advised not to actually allow for public comment to be had. As chairman, it is to my discretion, and I tend to be someone who would rather hear from the public and express the fact that we'd like to hear from you. We cannot take it into account for tonight's vote, but the reason I do think it's important to hear from people is its potential that things might get raised that will alert us to being able to make adjustments into future legislation or ordinances. And so it's important to hear what the public has to say. But it is a situation that can get sticky because we cannot, in fact, make our vote determinant on what is said in the meeting. So thank you. Usually my dick. All right. That's it. Motion to adjourn. Thank you very much.
And you can empower.